Knife Watch. Today we've got a special treat. The AD20 Shark Lock Machine Ground Demko knives. What a beautiful, beautiful custom knife. It's so precision made and beautifully made. You'd think that this was some sort of production piece, but it's not. Wristwatch check. Wearing the Seiko Dress KX in two-tone. Two-tone is just sexy. If you can't pull it off, no worries. Just send it over to me. Okay, let's get into it. This knife comes in at $425. Any custom knife that you're getting is going to be a little bit pricey. And so this is definitely on the upper ranges. Let's do a quick few size comparisons right here. First and foremost, you got to compare it to the Cold Steel Recon 1. Andrew Demko is an amazing, amazing knife maker. And so you've got to compare him to the work that he's done with Cold Steel. Then the Ace Grand from Giant Mouse, also a good comparison. Nice, hardy work knife. And we'll be bringing this Recon 1 back. I know you guys love the Recon 1. Also want to compare it to the Benchmade Freak, the Super Freak M4. And last but not least, let's check it out against the Spyderco, right? You need a Spyderco in there, nice work knife. This is the Manix 2. Okay, so this is actually the first custom knife I've ever reviewed on Knife Watch, and in general, the first custom knife that I've ever handled for this length of time, other than a fixed blade. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to Snuggle Tummy for lending this into the channel and allowing me to review this. This has been an absolute pleasure. I'm floored by your graciousness, always, Snuggle Tummy. All right, so this is 5 things you didn't know about the AD20. This is a brand new knife. Let's get into the first thing. First things first, this knife maker, Andrew Demko, is an absolute star, a stud, a superstar in the knife making world, industry, whatever you want to call it. This is the easiest knife to disassemble that Andrew Demko has ever made. This is probably the ultimate lock that he's made. He's made a name for himself in general in creating knife locks. He might be the best knife lock maker alive, and that's saying a lot when you're putting him up against people like Chris Reeve, who invented the frame lock, the integral frame lock itself. But Andrew Demko created the Triad lock, which is on the Recon 1. He created the Scorpion lock, which is on the AD15, which a lot of people say is similar to this, and the Ramsafe lock, which is on the Pocket Bushman. And, the AD20 is a brand new blade for 2020, and this is the Shark lock. You see that little shark fin at the top there? So cool. So what you're getting here for about $425 is a knife with probably the strongest lock that you can get other than a Triad lock, which is, I'd say these are actually the 2 strongest locks of any knife that you're going to find. I could throw either of these into the middle of a building as it's being demolished, and both of these knives would still be locked, probably nice and tight the way they are. They're unbelievable. He said it's taken him 10 years to create these locks in terms of the AD20, so this is like the ultimate work by him. I was listening to him on the Knife Junkie podcast, and I was just floored by his knowledge. And so first things first, thing you didn't know about this is the best lock on the market. This is the newest, latest, and greatest technology in knife making for pure strength. And we're going to get into some of the other basic tenets of why this is amazing. One thing that he mentioned that was interesting was he said, almost every lock has a fixed point on the frame mostly. And that's true. I mean, basically the concept of a knife locking, this is just a simple liner lock with the Ace Grand. It's just about a moving piece and a fixed point. Basically you want to make sure that you can keep that knife wedged in. So the new Shark lock has the same principle as the Triad lock, but instead of a locking mechanism moving up and down, what's cool, you see this up and down, is that it's the same principle, but it's moving laterally. Okay. And the other thing is this shark lock is just unbelievable. So the second thing you didn't know about the AD20 is it opens smoothly. It's easy to unlock. And you may think, wow, you got the strongest lock in the world. It must be tough, right? Tough to open and close. No. I had a little bit of lock stick fresh out the package because Snuggle Tummy sent this as soon as he got it, and I really appreciate that. But the lock stick was gone after a few flips, and it is extremely easy to open and close. Kind of reminds me of the Axis lock in that way. Look at that. So I can do it slowly, quickly, but you can actually see that it's pretty easy to operate. The action, oh yeah, so you got thumb stud, and you've also got the ability to spidey flick it. Okay, this is not too difficult. And of course, you unlock it, disengage it by pulling back on the shark fin, and it's drop shutty. And the action, I guess I would compare it for people who might want something to compare it to, is it does have a really strong detent, right? A big detent, you know? Okay, that's no joke. So let's see that again in slow motion. Not really, but all right. So that's a long detent. Compare that to something like the Axis lock, which also has a fairly long detent. Okay, there's your snap there, and obviously that's way different than something like your basic liner lock, where the detent doesn't start to all the way down there. So, yeah, giving you an idea there. Okay, the third thing you may not have known about the AD20 machine ground Andrew Demko in 20 CV. This is an amazing knife. I love it. The ratio is right. Forget blade to handle ratio, okay? I talk about that a lot on the channel. This is a decent blade to handle ratio, but it doesn't matter on this knife. What matters here is excellent strength to weight ratio. That's the new ratio in town, okay? It has to be strong and durable. You know, every knife has to be, right? Just like a watch. You want it to be strong and durable for whatever you have in the day ahead, and definitely, certainly a knife, if it's a tool, you want it to be strong and durable. It's tough. It meets all the criteria. You know, you can make a lot of knives that are strong and thick and big and strong and great. But what's really important is that it's also easy to use. So if you make a knife that has a frame lock, right? Like, you know, Chris Reeve knife with an inch thick, a frame and a lock on each side. I mean, sure, it'll be extremely strong as a brick, but it'll also be as heavy as a brick. And that's not really something you want to EDC, right? The weight on this is great. These G10 scales are amazing. And that brings us to the fourth thing you didn't know about the AD20 is that this is the most modular custom knife that probably is on the market as well. I know I'm raving about it, but I'm serious about that. The precision on this is amazing. So yes, this is a custom knife that comes in at 425, which is actually making it a direct competitor with the Hinderer XM18. But all the tolerances will fit with any other custom AD20 that you're using. So whether you get it in 3V or 20CV, the amount of tolerances that I learned from Andrew Demko that is in this lock and how it works is actually the wire EDM cutter that makes this knife lock is one of the tightest tolerances you'll see on any gadget or device. It's actually 50 millionths of an inch in the tolerances for the wire EDM that makes this shark lock. So the precision on this is amazing. When I'm talking precision level, like up there with Koenig Arius, which is about twice the price, maybe more. And so that leads us to the fifth thing you probably didn't know about the AD20, which is this is probably the easiest to disassemble of any knife that Andrew Demko has made. You know, he wants everyone with an AD20 to be able to switch their knife scales at any time. So for a custom knife, this is unheard of. So with the modularity of a Hinderer knife and the locking mechanism strength and inventiveness, this took 10 years to develop by Andrew Demko. Is Demko the new Rick Hinderer and Chris Reeve put together? Huh. I'm sorry. I have huge respect for Chris Reeve and Rick Hinderer. Obviously, they're gods in knife making space, and I would never try to offend them. And I know they have huge fan bases, and I bow at their feet. But I'm just trying to give you a sense of the level of impressiveness that's in this knife, and everybody should check it out. If you're interested in locking mechanisms or strength and things like that, and you're happy to hear me nerd out about these things, you know, listen, I just have great respect for this knife. You know, don't take it too seriously. Huge fan of all of these blades, and it's been a pleasure to really deal with this. So, you know, I think in general I have great respect for Andrew Demko. And the fifth thing you may not have known about the AD20, you know, this is kind of a big statement here, and I'm going to finish here, but this has to be the greatest lock with self-adjustment ever made. So what is self-adjustment? I mentioned earlier that when you have a knife that when you first break it out of the package, it'll have some lock stick. And what's lock stick? Well, you know, you open the knife for the first time and, you know, say you're looking at where this lock is here. Maybe this will get sticky, right? So when you open it, it opens fine, but it's a little hard to like disengage this, to move this over, right? And it's just kind of feeling sticky there. That's lock stick, if you hear anybody talking about that. But lock stick is a part of something, you know, something that you'll get rid of as the lock is engaged and disengaged over and over again. And that's sort of something like self-adjustment, but that's not what I mean here. What I mean by self-adjustment is that it becomes better and adjusts with you and with time. So the longer that you have this knife, the better of a performer it becomes. And that also goes for the Recon 1, right? The longer you have the triad lock, which is generally considered to be the most impressive lock on the market, and the strongest lock, right? Weight tested by Lynn Thompson himself. The more you lock and unlock and disengage this triad lock, the deeper the actual lock gets seated into the wedge. So the longer you own it and the more you use it, the better the lock becomes, the stronger it becomes. And that's really cool. That's sort of like an automatic watch, right? The longer you wear it, the more it winds. Love that. So this actually has that feature as well. So you got easy to disassemble. You've got great strength to weight ratio. You've got modularity with anybody else that has one of these. That's crazy for a custom knife. For a custom knife, it's competitive in price with popular production knives of its quality, like a Sebenza or an XM18. It's made by somebody who's probably the best knife lock designer alive today, or at least the newest superstar in it. Somebody who really knows what they're doing, really great quality. Also somebody that has developed some of our favorite classics with other major production brands. So is definitely considered a master knife maker. And it's a big knife. It's useful. It's not too big where it's unwieldy. And it's also got, my favorite part is, you know, this thumb. You know, I already talked about this, but this place where you can just put your thumb, the jimping here, it's just delightful. And you can even use the shark lock, has some jimping here as well. So you can use that if you want to pull back a little bit and use your knife however you'd like to use that there. You got drop shut action, different ways to open it, close it. You can spidey flick it. It's got fidget factor. What is not to love about this blade? So I've got to say this is actually probably the best knife that I've reviewed on the channel so far. In general, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm afraid I do have to send it back, but hey, just the experience of it, having this in hand and being able to use it has been absolutely amazing. And the pocket clip's not bad either, actually. While we're at it, if you're familiar with cold steel knives, sorry, I got some lint in here. So yeah, if you're familiar with cold steel knives, they don't have the best pocket clips on some of their models. But this pocket clip, I've had this in and out of pocket going to the post office and running errands and doing chores. Broke down some boxes. This 20CV has been machine ground to absolute perfection. Of course, you can't forget the blade. It doesn't look like you've ever even used the knife. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. It's, you know, with any custom knife, it's ridiculously sharp. This is not something that you want to pass to a friend or neighbor if they ask you to use a knife. You know, give them a Spyderco Delica or something like that. This is a real adult's knife. So I gotta say, with that, yeah, it's a 10 out of 10, 100%. I gotta say, if you have a chance or an opportunity to pick one of these up and check it out, or you have a friend who has one, or you had an opportunity to, just borrow one. Definitely check this out. I've got to say, this has really awakened me to the world of Demko knives, and I'll definitely be trying to pick one of these models up in the future. I've enjoyed the orange. Definitely don't miss it. Sitting in a room, you always know where your knife is. Probably try to check out some other colors as well, but 10 out of 10 knife here. This is an absolute pleasure. So anyway, I've rambled on enough, and it's not what we do here. Peace and love. Knife Watch out.